with Sean Spicer saying we will have, I'm just quoting him, 100% whatever he, McMaster, needs to implement a team. Might that include doing away with Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, who has a seat at that table? Steve Hall is with me, retired CIA Chief of Russia Operations. Phil Mudd is with me as well, CNN counterterrorism analyst and former CIA counterterrorism official. Gentlemen, good to see both of you, and we'll get to this other story in just a second. But Phil, what did you hear when you heard Sean Spicer's answer? I mean, when you hear 100% whatever he needs to implement a team, is that wiggle room to say thanks but no thanks to Steve Bannon?
No, that's asked backwards. Look, the deal here is you don't have political commissars who sit in the National Security Council meetings. Steve Bannon is not there because of his expertise on national security issues. He's there as a commissar to ensure people toe the party line. And if you're sitting around the table as the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, the CIA director, and you see him on the side, what do you think, Brooke, that they're going to think if they express an opinion that's different than what the president believes? It's not whether the new National Security Advisor has the authority to remove somebody. The White House should be saying Mr. Bannon is not welcome in the Principals Committee. They shouldn't put the onus on the new National Security Advisor.
Ass backwards. That's a first I've
Ass
heard from
backwards.
you. Phil Mudd, stay with me. Steve, I'm coming to you. Let's move off of that. Let's talk about this 11-year CIA veteran calling it quits. His reason, he says, President Trump. Edward Price is his name. He says he worked proudly for both Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama, but he says he could not, quote, in good faith, serve this administration. In the Washington Post this morning, he wrote in part, as intelligence professionals, we are taught to tune out politics. The river separating CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, from Washington might as well be a political moat. But this administration has flipped that dynamic on its head. The politicians are the ones tuning out the intelligence professionals. So, Steve, the question to you is, we are 1 month in, and he's already saying, I'm out. How alarming is that?
Well, it's alarming, especially if it is reflective of the rank and file at CIA, and I hope it's not, because there's a lot of good people there, and the American people really rely on them for a lot of national security and a lot of intelligence production. So I hope that doesn't happen. But it's an interesting window into what is probably going on inside the agency and at the NSC as well. I focused on one particular part of his piece that, again, gets back to the whole Bannon issue, which is one of the things that really disturbed this officer was the idea that intelligence flows through the system and then right at the end, as Phil mentioned quite correctly, ends up in the hands of some political commissar who then can repackage, massage, decide as to what the president sees. And that is against everything that anybody who has ever been an intelligence officer stands for. We need to get neutral, political, free information to the senior-most policymakers, and to have something stand in the way of that is horrific.
Phil, what did you think when you read it?
Look, I think we got to separate out substance and style. Substantively, I think there are a couple issues that are important. I do believe, and I talked to a lot of my friends at the agency, there's a lot of nervousness about the president that goes beyond Democrat and Republican. I think when you look at the substance of what the president has done, for example, his quick comments on foreign policy that don't always seem to be well considered. He talked about a one-state solution for Israel, and his advisors immediately said, no, that's not what we're doing. In terms of style, he's been abusive toward the intelligence community, including both the FBI and the agency. That said, 30 days in, I'd be saying, boy, that's a little quick to pull the trigger. A lot of what the president's done in terms of naming advisors and what he's actually done on the ground, not much on Russia, for example, despite what he said, and his advisors have been tough on Russia. I would have given it a little more time to pull the trigger on I'm getting out.
Phil and Steve, thank you.